back, everybody. Welcome back to Words with Wayman. I am your host, Mr. Matt Wayman. Very excited to be back, everybody. Thank you all for tuning into last week's episode. As always, follow us online on Twitter at Words with Wayman and on Facebook, Words with Wayman. Got a very hot episode today. We're going to get right into it. I'm too excited. Very, very great guest out of New Orleans. Friend, improviser, comedian, all-around good guy, creative mind, Mr. James Hamilton. James, thank you for coming out.
Hey, thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here.
Oh, very, very excited. So we talked a little bit before. We originally, we'd met when I was living down in New Orleans a couple years ago. You were an improv coach of mine and a very good mentor as well. And now you got into stand-up.
Yeah.
So now it's kind of cool because now we just get to hang out.
Yeah.
And you don't have to tell me how bad at improv I am. Like, you blew it there, Wayman. You always get racial with the improv. I don't know why.
Yeah, your jokes were too good. You were too good of a jokester for improv.
That is tough, dude. That is definitely one of the tough parts as a stand-up, to not just throw punchlines down in improv.
Yeah, I found now the more I do stand-up, so a lot of people, I was listening to the episode that you did with Sam.
Yeah.
You guys were talking about, you can always tell when somebody does improv when they're doing stand-up.
Oh, yeah.
And I can always tell that, but I started with improv so concretely. I didn't even really like stand-up. I just had it in my head that I was, because bad stand-up is so bad.
It's the worst.
And I was like, that's what most of it is.
Yeah, I always look at it like improv is, when it's good, it's like magic, and like when it's bad, it's like worse than watching the worst open mic.
Yeah. Oh, it's so
because like even open mics, you're like, at least he worked on that. Like improv, it's like they're blowing it, but they didn't even write it, so it's even coming off worse.
And also, they're probably going to walk backstage after a bad improv
and be like,
show
we killed it.
That was cool.
God, they really.
Cool.
How could they have loved us more? I don't understand.
Yeah, but I've found now that I'm doing stand-up that I feel worse at improv because my writer brain is working so hard.
On overtime.
It's on overtime all the time. So when I'm in a situation, I'm not as present as I once was.
Absolutely, to listen and just to be in that scene as opposed to trying to write ahead because that's what you do in stand-up. You write ahead.
Yeah.
Even if, like, I see a lot of people that do improv-heavy stuff in stand-up, and a lot of it, to me, seems... It's not... I'm sure it is pre-written, but it comes off super improv-y, which is the goal. But it is one of those things. Because you started... I was completely different. I started in stand-up and then went into improv, so it's different for me. When did you get into improv? How old were you?
Oh, I was pretty late into it. I mean, I think I did the first improv class I ever took. I was 24.
Crazy.
Yeah, and it was
late into the game, late bloomer. Just come out hot.
You said you played music, right?
Yeah, I was a drummer.
I started as a musician. Grew up always played music.
Yeah. Performing. What would you play?
I grew up. In high school I played trumpet.
Heck yeah, love trumpet.
And then did marching band, jazz band, anything
all of it,
I could do. And then after that, went into singing and playing.
So performing and being in front of people.
Yeah, all the time. I did like wedding bands.
Yeah.
Played out sometimes in
That's
Denver.
a thing too, just being comfortable and being in front of people. That helps with the improv and the stand-up.
Yeah. And then when I took my first improv class when I was 24. It was pretty unpleasant experience because
they're always the worst. What was the change that you made? You were just like, did you just see a class and you're like, I've always thought I've wanted to do this, or somebody told you about it?
So I lived with CJ Hunt, who is, for people that don't know, is a really great comedian.
Fantastic.
Who lives in New Orleans. He's great stand-up and
member of Stupid Time Machine, which is a sketch troupe that you were involved in as well.
Yeah. And we do a bunch of different stuff together. And I lived with him for years. And I lived with him for 2 years. And I was watching him doing comedy. And he was like, hey, we do this naturally all the time anyway. You should do this. It would be very fun. And I was going to his shows. And I was like, this is very fun. I should do this.
Yeah.
Should try this. So I tried. Didn't work out too well at the theater that he was at the time.
Definitely.
I moved away, moved back. You know what I'm talking about.
Oh, I know.
Yeah. And then when I came back, he was CJ and a couple of the other members of Stupid Time Machine were in the process of founding the new movement.
Yeah.
And Derek Dupuis,
super funny as well.
Yeah, really funny guy, incredible improviser.
Yeah.
He was like, hey, I signed you up for the first round of classes, and I pretended like I was very mad, but I was very excited.
It almost has to be like that. Like, I went into it knowing that I was going to be terrible at it because I knew I had to do it for my stand-up, which is the reason that I signed up originally, because it is the hardest thing. Oh man, the first classes at improv are so bad. But I mean, I feel like they should be, because like you're either like, I want to get better at this, or I just am done, because they are a lot of times not pleasant.
Yeah, and that's why there's a specific brand of person in the world, the specific type of comedian who teaches beginning improvisers, because you have to make it like a love fest, because
definitely.
People have to be like, this is fun, I'm getting to hang out with people, I love this thing, because that's what brings them back.
Which is what I initially hated about it, because stand-up is so polar opposite. So I wanted somebody to be like, hey, that's not funny, you can make it funnier by doing this. But it is like, that everything is great. But the teachers that we had, because I went through the same school that you'd went through at the New Movement, I mean, were probably they were the best that I've ever had. I've experienced other teachers up here and around the country as well, but I mean, of just being loving, but also being like, steer you in a different direction as well.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing that the New Movement does really well that I've definitely benefited from, is just like the amount of like quality comedy that they put you around. Like, they shape your taste well.
Oh, of course.
And there's an aesthetic to all the things that they do that are pretty consistent, and so you kind of get brought into a world that shapes your taste in a way that
of course.
That you never get too far into the campy improv world.
The show that you were on tonight, which is our Bits and Pieces show, is basically just a sketch shows that you guys would put on mixed with a massive fraud show. And just like, so, it's just mixture of the two. Like, the reason I got into doing more sketch in the agency was founded is because everybody saw how good of stuff you guys were doing and putting out, or I saw it when I was down there. I was like, dude, I have to do this, because this is where comedy's going,
Yeah, for sure.
You have to be able to write and put out your own content. Like, doing the stand-up is another piece of the puzzle. It's all coming out of the same place.
Yeah, and I think that's the thing. I'm improvising not as much. We were talking about that a second ago. But that's just because, like, stand-up is challenging to me in a way that I'm enjoying a lot. And then also spending a lot of time with Stupid Time Machine, making videos and thinking about what that looks like. We put out our first short film, and we've done a couple other, like, we've been putting out videos pretty regularly with a
which take a lot of time.
Yeah, because we work with a production company called Calm Dog.
Nice.
Production company, and
check them out on the web.
Yeah, they're excellent. And
all the videos are super, super high quality and fantastic.
Yeah, and that's a funny thing for our videos, actually, because we always like having a production company that's that good for your essentially like DIY sketch stuff means that people default to being like, hey, your sketch looks very good, and so it makes us have to step up the funny like times 10. That's awesome. Because if anybody, we almost see it as like a slight failure if the first thing that people say is, hey, your sketch looked very good. Because we know it will. We need to make sure that the funny is the first
number
thing
one.
that they see.
Which is the toughest part, especially when you're writing with a bunch of people, when everybody has to decide on it. But I think that's the greatest part of when everybody comes out of an improv background. You know what I mean? It makes the writing, like, I feel like as improvers, we learn how to write dialogue, which is the number one thing. Because you think about it through an improv scene lens, you're like, would this sound right if I said this?
Yeah, I agree. And that's actually something we're trying to return to right now, because when we realized how good Calm Dog was with their production stuff, we started writing things that no longer featured us as performers. We started writing things that just featured them as a production company.
Yeah.
So a lot of our jokes were aesthetic jokes, or the jokes were visual, or the jokes were in an edit, or they were things. Like big zoom outs where it
kind
was
of like putting it on them as opposed to taking it on yourself.
Yeah, and so what we're trying to be like, we are in our heart of hearts, all of us are improvisers. So let's make sure that the largest chunk of anything we're doing, whether it's a short film or a sketch or whatever, is us in a room getting to go off of each other. Because if they can make that look good, then we're in our bread and butter, and we'll be set.
Yeah, I think you guys do it right too. Of course, sort of aesthetically writing towards your characters as well. Playing up your character that you kind of do on stage, as well as being like. But if you're not writing towards your character, how can you get the funniest scene that you could get if you don't already know the interaction and the relationship you have with those people? Which is why doing sketch for that long together helps out so much.
Yeah, and I think knowing the people that you're working with is obviously very good. But it's interesting because the people that I write with now with Stupid Time Machine were essentially like my idols when I first started in comedy, because they were the people who were teaching my improv classes. They were the people whose shows I was going to weekly. And I was like, God, these guys are so good. And and then now I'm with them.
Yeah.
And so I've essentially spent years watching them do their thing. So when it's time to sit down and write a sketch, I immediately have these moments where I'm like, I want to hear Derek say this phrase.
Of course.
It's going to be funny when Derek says this. If I say it right now, it will not be funny.
No.
But
you
through
know him
his
well
lens,
enough.
I know through the character that he's playing at any given time, it's going to be great.
But it was also crazy to me that the scene that was started down there that you came up with, went through the school, and then eventually started coaching because you coached a group that I was in for a while. But the level was just so high, but it was such a small amount of people.
Yeah.
So like we were spoiled. Like I would go to 4, 5, 6 improv shows a week, and it'd just be so high level. And then we go up and blow it for 15 minutes or something. But like just coming up in the school. But we also got a bunch of stage time too.
Yeah. Well, you're selling yourself short here, just so.
No, it was. I mean, it was fun. I love improv. Like
Yeah.
it is so much fun.
Yeah. Well, and I think, it's so much about who you're around when you're starting. Because I do think, clearly I was very late to the comedy game. I just saw Planes, Trains, and Automobiles like last week, and like
that's it. We're shutting this podcast down. That's it.
Yeah.
Done. Over.
Like
it's the only pre-rec.
Yeah. I was really late to this game.
Yeah.
But like jumping into it and then being around like. I'm not exaggerating in terms of like world-class improv in some cases.
Yeah.
Just in terms of like Machine A with like Cecile Montaigne and Chris Kamenstein, and I was practicing with him. Yeah, I was practicing with them weekly. And CJ Hunt and Chris True and Tammy Nelson and Grace Blakeman and Derek Dupuy, and there was all
just
these people.
every megaphone show just being the most high-level thing I'd ever seen in my life.
Yeah, and it was just this element of just like, if I'm going to play with them, I need to go to as many classes as I can.
Yeah, so it always comes back to this. It's a need, not necessarily like a want. It's like this needs to happen. It's like, it's not a choice really at this point. This is going to happen. Like,
yeah, that's exactly it.
Because improv, you're 100% in or you're out, as I'm concerned, because it is so much that thing.
Yeah.
It's the improv brain.
Yeah, and your brain needs to be working on. And when your improv brain is firing, you like think everything is about improv. I've just had so many conversations with people when I'm in my improv mode that's just like, you should take improv. It'll make you better at your job.
Yeah.
It'll make you better at relationships. And like everything is seen through that lens.
No, absolutely it is. It's the same thing with like stand-up too and comedy. Like I don't necessarily go tell people to do comedy or anything like that, but it's like it is what defines us, which is what improv and comedy is in general.
Yeah.
It's a complete thing that gives so much satisfaction.
Yeah. And I'm sure that this is the case with like most artists. I just don't. I was thinking about this tonight. I like don't know how to do any of those things halfway, and I don't know if you can.
I don't think so.
But I'm like, all right.
I see it sometimes. You definitely see it out there.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. There are people who do it, but I just like I can't imagine when I'm doing like when I'm in stand-up mode and I'm thinking about that, it just consumes my brain.
Yeah.
Just like days at a time.
It's cool too, especially I'm glad that you found stand-up because I know that I talked to you about that before, about doing stand-up, because I've always been a proponent of definitely improvisers. Like I'll tell improvisers to do stand-up because I think it's just if all we are in this thing is just like writers that perform our own stuff, or like if you have a good improv brain, you're a good writer because you're writing on the spot. So it's like it's just a different outlet on stage for stand-up.
Yeah, I agree. I think for me the writing a lot of sketch and writing a lot of like starting to write more scripts and starting to kind of shift the way that I thought about myself as like a creative writer slowly kind of as a creative person more towards a writer, I guess. And like a little bit away from performing, which was what used to be 100% of what I did.
Of course.
I started to just see the value in stand-up just in terms of like the instant feedback that you get.
Of course.
And like if your craft's not on, it just doesn't work.
Oh, no.
In a way that, like, so I just was like, this is where it needs to be.
If you're not buying into yourself, it's immediately apparent. If you can't, like, you can tell people right when they get on stage, you're like, uh-oh, this isn't going to. He's not. And some people can turn it. Some people can do that awkward character or something, but it's pretty. Stand-up is just an extension of you. Like, it's your character just personified, like, just 2, 3, 10 times.
Yeah. And I found, and maybe you found this as well with improv, I always found with improv, it kind of tapped into like my musician brain as much as anything else, or at moments, because it was about like listening and like working with other people to make something work and, like being very present and having a lot of fun and in a way that like it was an easy shift for me to make in a way that starting stand-up wasn't always, because it tapped into a new part of my brain. And with improv, I think for so long, I thought of it in terms of, Chris True always talks about like verse, chorus,
Yeah,
like finding the melody of what's happening. And, like, it was easy for me to translate that. So,
and there's that thing too. You can tell, especially like I go see headliners all the time down at Comedy Works, and it's a symphony at that point. It is up and down, up and down, up and down, taking them each way. But I think you're absolutely right. I think music teaches you to know that the crowd is there. There's a crowd there. You have to deal with them. If somebody drops a glass, say something. Improv helps with that a little bit, but I feel like it's the musician in me that's always like, I have to let the crowd know that I know they're there.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, this is not,
I see you.
Like, a lot of people don't address it. Don't just come up and say, hey, my wife's crazy. Yeah. Or like whatever it is, or like get into a bit. It's like, no, the crowd is there. Let's talk about who's there, or at least address what's going on.
Yeah, they just need to feel like you're looking at them.
Yeah, they know.
At the very least.
Stand-up boiled down into that. Just let them know that you're looking.
Yeah, that's it.
That's a good T-shirt. Yeah. Awesome. Well, that is going to do it for part 1 of this hot little episode. We're going to be back really shortly for a part 2 of this episode. But real quick, right before we get out of here, do you want to do some plugs for your Stupid Time Machine stuff, or just let people know where they can find you? Yeah,
sure. So you can find me on Twitter at the Jam Ham.
Hell, you had to get in early to get that one. That was a tough one.
Yeah, and then Stupid Time Machine stuff, all the videos and all the things that we're doing, and we tour and do festivals around the country is stupidtimemachine.com. That's the place to go for that.
Awesome. Check that out online, everybody. We'll be right back with part 2. Thank you all so much for listening. We'll see you soon.